Good evening and welcome to the Daily News Roundup. I am Abigail Smythe. Coming up in this evening's newscast, investigations underway into allegations of sexual harassment against senior JDF officer. Fatal police shootings increased to 19. Windshield washer shot and killed on Dunrobin Avenue. Man stabbed and killed in St. Elizabeth by man said to be of unsound mind. Police disrupts major car stealing ring in Red Hills, St. Andrew. In business, gaming company Supreme Ventures records profit increase for September quarter. In the region, children make up half of Haiti's suspected 1,700 cases of cholera. And on the international scene, 2 killed and several injured in a school shooting in Missouri. And in sports, West Indies head coach Phil Simmons resigns. Now for the news in detail. Investigations are now underway at the Jamaica Defense Force, JDF, into allegations of sexual harassment against a senior officer. The officer is being recalled from training overseas to enable further investigations and the appropriate disciplinary proceedings. It was reported early on Monday that more than a dozen female soldiers have come forward with allegations that they were victims of sexual assault by a high-ranking officer. The allegations range from rape to fondling and unwanted sexual advances. In a media release on Monday afternoon, the JDF said preliminary investigations into the matter commenced as soon as the report was received. However, in the JDF's release, it only referenced sexual harassment allegations and gave very little information. The JDF noted that, quote, matters of this sensitive and personal nature are thoroughly investigated with due regard for the privacy and protection of the complainant, end quote. It also said no further public comment would be made as the investigations are ongoing. The JDF also added that it has a robust sexual harassment prevention policy and treats with any breaches as a zero-tolerance matter. It said the force has a track record of dealing with disciplinary breaches of any kind where persons are found culpable. There is information circulating that the person of interest named in the death investigation of popular social media influencer Anika Slickiana Townsend has fled the country. It has been said that Roshane Patterson fled the island on Saturday, boarding a flight out of the Sangster International Airport that was heading to Atlanta. However, head of the Constabulary's Corporate Communications Unit, CCU, Senior Superintendent Stephanie Lindsay, says the police have no information to indicate such. Patterson was named a person of interest on Saturday after Townsend was discovered dead in Redding, Montego Bay on Friday. Her body was recovered from the sea. Patterson had been given a deadline of 5 p.m. Saturday afternoon to turn himself in. On the weekend, police sources said that based on preliminary investigations, the deceased woman was last seen alive in the company of Patterson at a popular restaurant in Hanover. Townsend, who is from Kingston, is said to have traveled to Montego Bay earlier in the week where she met with Patterson. Member of Parliament for East Rural St. Andrew, Juliet Holness, has come under fire for comments she made at a Jamaica Labour Party divisional meeting on Sunday. Speaking at the meeting held at the Constant Spring Primary School, Mrs. Holness told party supporters that anywhere that is unsafe to live, you can find comrades or supporters of the PNP living there. She went on to say that anywhere that is a garbage dump, comrades live there. Her comments have led to outrage from the public. MP Holness has since sought to clarify her statement, noting that she was casting blame on poor leadership as the reason why some Jamaicans live in unfavorable conditions. The MP says during her tour of her constituency, there was evidence of many politically marginal settlements that were unfavorable. In the meantime, opposition leader Mark Golding says MP Juliet Holness is trying to deflect attention from the government's recent depredations against the people. In a Twitter post, Golding notes that the problem of vulnerable Jamaicans living in places where they're exposed to environmental dangers is not limited to supporters of any political party. Opposition spokesperson on land and housing, Senator Sophia Fraser Binns, also weighed in, calling for Mrs. Holness to retract her statement. Senator Fraser Binns says those comments are divisive, contentious, and irresponsible. MP Holness has since justified her statements, noting that her intention is not to secure votes, but for further development to benefit the people. The Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, says fatal police shootings since the start of the year have increased to 19, following 3 separate incidents over the weekend. The 3 fatal shootings occurred in Rocky Point, Clarendon, Rockfort in East Kingston, and Nain in St. Elizabeth. They resulted in the deaths of 3 men and the reported recovery of 2 firearms from the incident scenes. Indicom says investigations are underway into each incident and that its investigations are to assess if the necessary, justifiable, and proportionate use of force was used in each circumstance. This assessment will include the review of evidentiary material, witness canvassing, statement collection, and interviews of concerned officers. In the meantime, the Commission says it continues to emphasize the importance of the introduction of the use of body-worn cameras in investigations and case reviews of incidents, especially where lethal force is used. It says in at least 1 incident on the weekend, the use of video footage by civilians has aided in a clearer appreciation of the circumstances. Indicom says video footage serves to protect all concerned parties, and members of the public are encouraged to officially share such evidence with investigators. A windshield washer was shot and killed on Dunrobin Avenue in St. Andrew Tuesday morning. The Jamaica Constabulary Forces Corporate Communications Unit says the shooting took place at approximately 10:30 in the vicinity of a Total gas station. It is reported that the windshield washer was standing on the median along the roadway talking to fellow washers when the pillion on a motorcycle fired several shots, hitting the man. The bike then sped off in the direction of Washington Boulevard. The deceased is yet to be identified. And a man was shot and killed during an alleged confrontation with police in Manchester Tuesday morning. A firearm was reportedly seized in the incident. Preliminary reports are that shortly after 6 o'clock, a police team was on operation in the Elliston community near Spurtree when the cops were confronted by an armed man. He was shot and pronounced dead at hospital. And a man was killed in Breeze River, St. Elizabeth, a Sunday night by a man said to be of unsound mind. The deceased, 30-year-old Kemar White of Grossmond in the parish, was stabbed to death. It's reported that about 9:45 p.m., Mr. White was stabbed in the neck outside a bar. He was pronounced dead at hospital. The suspect is in hospital after he was attacked and chopped by residents. The police say the suspect was found with several chop wounds in Bogue, Balaclava. The St. Elizabeth Police notes that this is the 3rd incident in recent times involving a supposedly mentally ill person attacking members of the public. On Friday, Principal of Retirement Primary Anne-Marie Robinson Terrelong was chopped in the head by a man said to be of unsound mind on the school's compound. She is recovering in hospital while the suspect remains in custody. A man in Negril, Westmoreland, who allegedly shot and injured his uncle over an ongoing land and water dispute, is now in police custody. On Sunday, the man allegedly shot his uncle in the right side of his head and buttock. According to the police, the injured man was sitting on his veranda at home when he was confronted by his nephew, who is alleged to have said, quote, "Long time me I want to know," end quote, before pulling a firearm from his waistband. The man was chased by his nephew, who opened gunfire at him, hitting him to the right side of his head and in his buttocks. The victim was assisted to the Savannah Lamar Hospital by the paramedics, where he was admitted in stable condition. The suspect was later apprehended by the police in the Negril bus park. The police disrupted a major car stealing ring in Red Hills, St. Andrew on Monday. Detectives from the St. Andrew North Police conducted an operation in the Adams Lawn area of Red Hills when they made the discovery. According to the police, 1 man was arrested. Station commander for the Red Hills Police Station, Detective Inspector Colin Berger, says the operation led to the recovery of several vehicles which were reported stolen from as far as Clarendon. Several of the vehicles appeared to be scrapped. Investigations are ongoing. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the government is experiencing financial constraints. He says his administration is unable to repair all the roads across the island that are in dire need of rehabilitation. He admits that the government, quote, simply does not have the budget to fix all the roads all at once, end quote. Citing the numerous demonstrations that have taken place in recent weeks, the Prime Minister says he understands that people's frustration sometimes boils over into real anger as they feel that there's no other way to get the attention of the government or their political representative. He notes that the government has been trying to improve the country's wherewithal by improving and increasing the fiscal capacity. Mr. Holness adds that his administration could not be reasonably criticized for trying to grow the economy and increasing revenue collection, because by doing so, there will be more resources to deal with the roads. The Prime Minister states that while priority has been given to thoroughfares that are heavily used, he understands public sentiment that some roads are being repaired, but not at a satisfactory pace. And an increasing number of health public inspectors are reportedly leaving Jamaica frustrated with resource constraints and low salaries. President of the Jamaica Association of Public Health Inspectors, Michael Miles, recently declared that the public health system is facing increased pressure due to inadequate resources and lack of proper solid waste management. He complained that public health inspectors are not being adequately compensated by the government and are suffering from fatigue. President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, John Mahfood, says he believes the country would be earning more from tourism if the crime rate was lower. Mr. Mahfood says despite welcoming up to 4 million visitors annually, the money spent by these visitors is mainly concentrated in all-inclusive hotels because tourists hardly venture out to entertainment areas, restaurants, or other local sites in the country. He states that other countries that do not share similar crime challenges as Jamaica are able to retain more earnings from tourism since their visitors, quote, can go out and mingle with the population and spend their money, end quote. Recently, Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett said the lawlessness plaguing Jamaica is making it increasingly difficult for him to market the country as a tourist destination. He lamented that the confidence in doing business in Jamaica was being deeply undermined by the antisocial behavior of citizens. And in business news, gaming company Supreme Ventures Limited's net profit increased by a third for its September quarter of 2022. Net profit generated between July and September totaled $426 million, or 36.4% more than the same period last year. Total gross ticket sales for the quarter amounted to $26.6 billion, representing an increase of 26% over the corresponding period last year. The company said, quote, customers continued to support new initiatives that positively impacted their pockets during stringent economic times, end quote. Total gaming income of $12.1 billion represented an increase of $1.9 billion, or 18.7% when compared to last year. This was driven largely by lottery sales, with strong performances from Cashpot and Instance. And in the region, St. Michael Northwest Member of Parliament in Barbados, Neil Rowe, has pleaded not guilty to rape. The accused appeared in the Oistins Magistrates Court on Monday and was granted bail in the sum of $10,000 with one surety. There was no objection to bail. However, the magistrate gave one bail condition: that the accused stay away from the female complainant. The case is adjourned until January 30, 2023. And over in Haiti, children now make up half of the country's suspected 1,700 cases of cholera. The waterborne disease has made a resurgence in the violence-torn country following a deadly gang war over the summer and amid an ongoing armed blockade of the main fuel terminal and seaports. UNICEF says since the onset of the cholera outbreak in Haiti, children below 14 years old make up nearly half of the 1,700 suspected cases. Haiti's Ministry of Health has reported 1,752 suspected cases and 40 cholera deaths as of Saturday. It is feared that the actual number is significantly higher due to underreporting. Doctors treating cholera patients believe there is a direct correlation between the disease's resurgence and the gang violence, which made it impossible for water trucks to access the slum amid the deadly clashes. And on the international scene, 2 people were killed and several others injured in a shooting incident at St. Louis, Missouri High School on Monday morning. Chaos unfolded shortly after 9 o'clock when authorities learned of a shooter with a long gun inside the Central Visual and Performing Arts High School. The school and the Collegiate School of Medicine and Bioscience, which is in the same building, were locked down. After a gunfight with authorities, the 19-year-old gunman, Orlando Harris, was taken into custody and later pronounced dead. He was identified as a 2021 graduate of Central with no criminal history. It is reported that the gunman entered the school with a rifle in an aggressive, violent manner and had almost a dozen 30-round magazines on him. Police officials say they are yet to determine the motive, but say there are suspicions that the suspect may have been experiencing mental illness. A fire broke out at a boarding school in Uganda Monday night, killing 11 people, including children. Police say the overnight incident happened at the Samala School for the Blind just outside Uganda's capital, Kampala. 6 other people were hospitalized in critical condition. They say it is not yet known what caused the fire. An official said the victims, including children aged 7 to 10, were burned beyond recognition. With the support of families, the victims' bodies will be identified through DNA investigations. Fire incidents at schools have been a cause of concern for education officials in the East African country, where classrooms and dormitories are often crowded. There's usually no firefighting equipment in place, and officials sometimes blame incidents on poor electrical connections. 2 dormitories at a prominent boarding school in Kampala were destroyed in separate incidents in 2020. No one was hurt. And in 2018, 19 elementary school students were killed in a nighttime fire outbreak at a boarding school. And in sports, West Indies head coach Phil Simmons has resigned. He announced his resignation on Monday, stating that his last assignment would be the upcoming 2-test series against Australia from November 30 to December 12. While he apologized for the side's disappointing performance that resulted in their shock exit from the ICC Men's T20 World Cup in Australia, Simmons said his decision to resign was not a knee-jerk reaction to that situation. The West Indies' 9-wicket defeat to Ireland last Friday saw them eliminated from the main draw of the tournament. Simmons, who was at the helm in 2016 when West Indies won their second ICC Men's T20 World Cup title, said the regional side's performances this time around were just not good enough. And in football, Chelsea beat Red Bull Salzburg 2-1 in Austria to secure their place in the last 16 of the Champions League. Mateo Kovacic and Kai Havertz scored impressive goals on either side of half-time for the Blues, while Junior Adamu scored Salzburg's goal just after the break. Chelsea will be back in Premier League action against Brighton on Saturday. And that's it for the news roundup for today. I am Abigail Smythe. See you next time.